So today, we will talk about the risk assessment. So what is this risk assessment? Risk assessment is a systematic process of identifying hazards and evaluating any associated risks within a workplace. So there are important keywords that we need to remember: the accident, hazard, and risk. Accident is an unplanned event that results in loss. For example, because of chemical spills, fires and explosion, and personal injuries. Hazard is something that has potential to cause harm. Example, chemical hazard, biological hazards, and physical hazards. While the risk is the likelihood and severity of negative occurrence resulting from a hazard. Example, it might injure or harm the person in the laboratory. So in the risk assessment and risk management, we have 6 P's to remember: the pathogen, practices, procedure, personal equipment, personnel, and place. So why is it important to conduct risk assessment prior to mitigation control? So let us first define what is risk assessment. Risk assessment helps us to identify the probability and consequences of infection. It is used to ensure that all people potentially exposed to biohazards have an awareness of potential risk. Risk assessment usually considers the health factors associated with the agent or pathogen. An evaluation of the procedures or tasks involved in the proposed work and a review of personnel who will be performing the work. Second, let us define what is mitigation control. Mitigation control are actions and control measures that are put into practice to reduce or eliminate the risk associated with biological agents and toxins. So to answer the question, why is it important to conduct risk assessment prior to implementing mitigation control? We know that mitigation are actions and control measures that we need to apply in order to reduce or eliminate risks associated with biological agents or toxins. Conducting a risk assessment helps us recognize, control hazards, and risks. It raises awareness among the people and reducing incidents that might happen. If we do not conduct risk assessment prior to implementing mitigation control, for sure we will not be able to reduce or eliminate the risk, or we might make the situation worse. Like this what-if scenario. What if you are experiencing illness? Will you take a medicine without knowing what your illness is? Will you recover? So itong risk assessment na ito is very important bago ka mag-conduct ng mitigation control. Kasi yung mitigation control mo is you base it in your risk assessment. So if you do not conduct a risk assessment, for sure hindi mo answer yung or mabigyan ng solution yung problems na ginakaharap ng isang laboratory.
So the next question would be, what outcomes would you expect when mitigation is based on a thorough risk assessment? So the group have agreed that if the mitigation is based on a thorough assessment, indeed we'll be able to reduce or eliminate the risks. Then, some outcomes we expect prior to this are minimal to no injuries and controlled threats and hazards. In line with this, we'll be able to target the right mitigation control that we can apply. So talking about mitigation, it is the process of elimination, substitution, and removal of hazards in a workplace. Next is risk assessment. So risk assessment is the process of identifying the hazards and evaluating the risks. So if both are carried out properly, both mitigation and risk assessment, it is safe to say na outcomes would be positive and coping up with a given situation would be possible and doable.
So for question number 3, what would you expect if mitigation is implemented without conducting a risk management? So we expect a failure, poor performance and dealing with consequences if the mitigation is implemented without the risk assessment. It is just a waste of time and effort, or it might make the situation worse. Moreover, it would cause more problems or injuries that could harm life.
Number 4. Give at least 2 examples of tools in which you can use to conduct a risk assessment. For our group, the tools that can be used in conducting risk assessment are the SWOT, or the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat, and brainstorming. According to Investopedia, they define SWOT analysis as a strategic planning technique that provides assessment tools. It also identifies the core strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats lead to fact-based analysis, fresh perspectives, and new ideas. SWOT analysis works best when diverse groups or voices within an organization are free to provide realistic data points rather than prescribed messaging. And brainstorming is when you let your brain process the things. So that's all for our presentation. Thank you.